Welcome back to the THC Launchpad. We are getting now to the good stuff. We're going to, in this video, we're going to be starting to look at branding and what do we mean by branding and what goes into a successful brand. The way I like to explain brand to people when they're not exactly sure what that means or why it makes a difference is let's take a retailer, for example. Let's say you're opening a dispensary in your town, in your city, and you're trying to figure out what is your brand going to be? What does it stand for? Well, let's use an example. Let's say that you decide you want your brand to be, your dispensary to be the friendliest dispensary. Not in your neighborhood, but just the friendliest dispensary they've ever been to, or just the friendliest shop they've ever been to. You're a friendly person. You like to make friends. You have a lot of friends. You want your dispensary to have that kind of congenial atmosphere where people feel at home, and there's always going to be a smile on their face, your face, everyone's face. So that's your goal. You want to have the friendliest dispensary. Well, that is your brand. And once you make that decision, once you hit on that kind of core idea, core value, everything else becomes so much easier. Because let's take this dispensary. What's its name going to be? Maybe we're just going to name it Friendlies. Maybe we're going to name it Smile Cannabis. But you can already start to generate ideas, and you now understand, like, the name of my dispensary is telling you exactly what you're going to get when you come to the dispensary. And that's what your brand is. That's exactly what you're supposed to accomplish with your branding. You're telling your customer, you're telling your audience exactly what they should expect from your store, your product, your service, your experience, whatever it is. This is what they can expect. And so let's continue thinking through our friendly dispensary. We're going to name it Friendlies. We're going to make sure that when we build out the store, it has a friendly, feel to it. I've been to a lot of dispensaries that it feels like you're doing something that's still illegal, right? It's dark, and I know that some of this is based on state rules. Maybe you're not allowed to have windows into the store. It could be for reasons outside your control. But I've been to a lot of dispensaries that it feels like you're going to buy weed from somebody's basement. But Friendlies, we're not going to have that. We're going to make sure that there's big windows. Maybe we can't have windows, but we have a big skylight. Or we're going to create an open atmosphere with a lot of light, even if it's not, if it's going to be from lighting, internal electric lighting instead of natural lighting. We're going to make sure it feels warm and it's nice and bright. And so we're going to make sure that when you're in the space, you feel comfortable, you feel, it feels friendly and welcoming. You're going to make sure when you hire your team, you're hiring the friendliest people, because that is what your brand represents. That's the most important thing about your brand. Well, you're going to make sure that all the people you hire are just the friendliest people that you can find. And just every step along the way, from your logo to your, the colors of your brand to, the interactions you're having, whether it's through email, through text messaging, through social media, everything is based around this core idea that you started with. And so when you come up with this central brand idea and focus, it makes, like I said, every one of the decisions along the way much easier, because you know what you're trying to accomplish from the very outset. So I could talk about all of the numbers and statistics and the marketing, lingo and jargon. Like, really, it just comes down to this. It's like, hey, I want to have the friendliest dispensary, and so I do everything I can to make sure my dispensary is the friendliest. Now, what you're going to do for your business it's not going to be that necessarily. It's feel free to steal it if you want, but you're going to think about what it is that you're doing, what product you're giving, what is important to you, what do you want your business to represent, how do you want to reach your customers, um, all the things that make your business unique. That is what's going to determine what your central branding idea is going to be. And it might be you're so passionate about the environment, and so you want to make sure that you're perceived as being eco-friendly, all natural, good for your health, like all those things that are tied into that central idea. Or maybe you're a teacher, or you came from a teaching background, you have parents that are teachers, and you feel like you've always been explaining the cannabis plant to people, and so education is going to be at the center of what you're doing. And this industry needs nothing more than it needs education. The industry needs to be educating the public, so that would be a good idea. Whatever it is that lines up with who you are, what your business is, and how you think you can get that competitive edge, that is how you center your brand. And if you find you're like, I don't know, like, I just like to grow weed. I like to smoke weed. I've always liked to grow it, and so I just feel like I do a good job of it. Then if you don't have that central idea, then work with a professional. Work with the Hood Collective, or work with whoever it is in your area, or whoever it is that you can find that you vibe with. Work together to figure out what your core brand is going to be about. Because until you do that, you really don't have any chance of really being a success. Um, I'll give you just one more kind of off the wall example, because this is based on a brand I know here. I'm not going to say any names, but I know a brand here in Oregon. The owner started out, before they got into cannabis, they were an architect and a designer, and so they entered the cannabis industry. They created an edibles company, and they applied their design aesthetic at every step of the way. And so they created a beautiful brand based around like some core tenets of design, and the way they package their product, the way they produce their product. It's all based around, having a very elegant design, simple design, effective design. And so you wouldn't have thought, design equals cannabis edibles, but that's what that person knew, and that's what they brought into their business. And they're one of the biggest brands in Oregon, and they're expanding into a lot of states, because they started with that core idea. They knew who they were, they knew how they wanted to present themselves, and they executed on it. So you need to figure out what that is for you. For some of you, it may be easy and obvious. For some of you, you may have to put a lot of thought into it. But that thought is like very important, and putting in the time and putting in the effort and working with professionals if need be to come up with, what your brand is going to be about is essential. If you want some inspiration, go to our website. You can see a lot of great brands on there that we've worked with. Sometimes we help develop the brand with them. Sometimes they came to us with that brand already in place. We love working with companies that already know who they are, because it makes our job that much easier. I hope that this helps get a lot of people, when we talk about brand, it's just a buzzword. It doesn't mean anything. I hope this helps you to understand what we mean by brand and why it's so essential to creating a strong business. So if you have any questions, feel free to hit me in the comments or reach out to us through our website. You can find all our contact information there. I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. In our next video, I encourage you to watch that too, because it goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. We're going to be looking at how to identify your audience and how to, figure out how to reach your target audience. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you hopefully next time.